Broadcasting from the basement of La Penta, it's WICR.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Sports Fall Jersey. Joe Archino back here. We're really set up for a tremendous weekend of college football coming up. Like it's been, we haven't had a ton of games that have turned out to be great some weekends, but we've always had two or three that have really taken us and made us all very happy. And of course, after this past weekend, the day belonged most certainly to Navy. And I think, look, to me, someone so proud of our armed forces in every capacity. When I saw them, and I like Houston a lot, I like Tom Herman. I think what he's done with that program is tremendous. But when Navy won that game, how could I not feel anything but joy, pride, and excitement after what Navy did? And I think it really speaks so much to the direction of that program. As it is, they were already doing a lot of great things. Navy is never an easy team to play against. I don't think any of the armed service schools are ever easy to play against, but I think Navy especially always presents a lot of challenges, and that speaks to coaching, that speaks to culture, that speaks to a lot of things. They've always going to have strength and honor like every armed service school, but they always bring something new to the table when they play against these schools. I remember JT Barrett, and I don't think any of us would debate how good JT Barrett is. JT Barrett is as good as it gets, maybe the best quarterback in the country outside of Lamar Jackson right now. But with that being said, JT Barrett struggled mightily against Navy when he played him. Ohio State really struggled against Navy, and that's Urban Meyer. I don't care who it is, what your name is. If you're Nick Saban or Urban Meyer, Navy's going to give you problems. It's just the way it is. It doesn't matter if you're a big-name school. They are, and this is a huge win and such a big testament to the direction of that program. And they undoubtedly owned the weekend in college football. But now we turn the page to a new weekend coming up in college football. And, of course, there are a couple games to headline it, but I think the biggest of all is, of course, Tennessee at home against Alabama. And to me, Tennessee was kind of frustrating to figure out this season because I've always contended that we've been still waiting for a signature Butch Jones win. A win where Tennessee comes out of the gate and owns it against someone who's a quality opponent too. And I just don't think we have seen that. And I like Butch Jones a lot. I think he's really put this program back on the map. And Tennessee, like UCLA, like USC, when college football is at its best and better when these programs are better. And USC is obviously down right now. Jim Mora has brought UCLA back into the forefront a little bit, but they're struggling this season. Tennessee, though, of course, has been one of the biggest names this season with the way they've been able to play. The best second-half team in college football by far. But the thing that I think was going to catch up to them eventually was some bad habits. And the worst habit of all for them was their bad starts to games. And once again, against Texas A&M, a program which has been tremendous this season in their own right, they are able to pull out a win. And look, you could say why. There are a lot of reasons why Tennessee didn't win that game. I don't think that was one of those games where the slow start did end up costing them, but it certainly didn't help them. And it could have helped them at the end of that game, but it didn't. And obviously Texas A&M is a really good program now, and now we're in a very interesting position where now Tennessee has to turn around. They've tasted the first amount of adversity they've had all year. They turn around at home against Alabama, and Alabama coming off a big win against Arkansas on the road in their own right, and Alabama really did own that game from the start to the end. They did struggle a little bit in the second half. Arkansas really just kept pushing the ball, and Saban didn't seem very happy. Jalen Hurts, to me, though, it was one of the games that I think we needed to see from him, a vote of confidence about his ability. I was getting worried about Jalen Hurts just from the standpoint of, I think for him a little bit, he was showing a little bit of timidness before this game. And this was the kind of game for a young quarterback like that in Nick Saban's offense. Not a lot of guys get a lot of chances like that. He's got a strong arm. He's got mobility. He's certainly got a lot of talent. But to me, he was regressing a little bit, but that was a big win for him, especially, and his confidence coming into this Tennessee game. Now, I'm not ready to make the pick on it yet. I'll do that this Thursday on College Football Corner. But when I look at this game, I really do think, you always have to look at it from the standpoint of the SEC. And Alabama, especially, their end of their schedule is the hardest in college football. They play Chattanooga before Auburn. That's it. Other than that, they play LSU, Mississippi State. They got Auburn the last week. They play and go through the gauntlet. Arkansas was just the start of it. They got Tennessee. They got LSU after that. Mississippi State. It does not get easier. It is brutal and relentless. And you would say, well, that's normal what Alabama does. They always have a tough schedule like that. But normally the way their schedule is kind of worked out is, you have a softball game, an easy game here and there. The schedule kind of works around that. But this season it's a little bit different for Nick Saban, for Alabama. That same guarantee in the schedule isn't there anymore. And yes, you have Chattanooga before Auburn, but Auburn won't be their biggest test. The Iron Bowl is always an emotional game. It's always going to be a tough game to play in. But Auburn has gotten a little bit better, but I don't think we really look at that one as the biggest challenge. To me, Alabama will slip. It's just a matter of when will they slip. And Tennessee really could be that perfect chance to do it. I said at the start of this, we're still waiting for that signature Butch Jones win, where start to finish, they have a strong game. And we saw last season Tennessee gave Alabama a real run for their money. Couldn't get it done, but they gave them a real run for their money. The problem before the season for Butch Jones was finishing games. This season, his team has been the best team in college football at finishing games. What they've kind of reverted away from is their strength in starting football games. But I think the thing that you need to be able to do to beat Alabama right now is just that. You need to be able to finish. You need to be able to just overwhelm them and outlast Alabama. We saw when Alabama played Ole Miss this year. That was a game where a lot of people went Ole Miss's way, and of course, Ole Miss, Hugh Freeze has been the only guy who's been able to beat Nick Saban 2 consecutive times the last 2 years. And one of the reasons that I think Saban was so lucky to get past that game was Ole Miss was coming. Ole Miss had all the momentum at the end of that game. They were coming, and they were just lucky, Alabama, that the clock ran out and the game was over. Tennessee, on the other hand, again, they're kind of like Ole Miss in that regard, where they're going to be ready. They're going to be there at the end of the game. They're not going to be able to slow down. They have a more experienced quarterback in Josh Dobbs. From the way I'm talking right now, you probably think I'm going to go with Tennessee, and I would admit to you right now that's probably where I am leaning, but I do still need a little bit more time to think about that game, and before I totally spoil it and I sell myself on it, let's go to Ohio State and Wisconsin. Now, Ohio State with a little bit of a slow start against Indiana, and to me, a lot of people looked at that game, and to me, I doesn't worry that much about that one. Because historically, Indiana has been a program that Urban Meyer has struggled with at Ohio State, and sometimes it just happens. There's that program in your schedule that you just seem to struggle with a little bit, and from Ohio State's standpoint, I think Indiana has been one of the ones that's given them trouble, and Indiana, by their nature, is very physical. They like to bang you around, and sometimes we have seen this Ohio State team struggle against that. But to me, they're still able to pull it out in an impressive manner, and I still contend you. They're my pick to win the national championship. I know a lot of people at the start of the season didn't want to pick them because they're not returning a lot of starters, and historically, that doesn't bode well for you when you're trying to win the championship in college football. But I look at Ohio State, and they returned a starter in the most important area, and that's at quarterback, and that's J.T. Barrett. I'm willing to ride and die with J.T. Barrett and Urban Meyer. I just think Barrett gives you everything that you want, from throwing the ball to making plays on his feet to understanding the game. I really think last season Ohio State kind of dug their own grave with that quarterback battle. Cardale Jones made it difficult, but J.T. Barrett gave you something different, brought something unique to the table. The job always should have been his, and that created a lot of controversy. And Ohio State, quite frankly, should have been in the top 4 last season, but they weren't because of that loss to Michigan State, and that all stems back to that quarterback controversy. Urban Meyer himself kind of has admitted that he didn't handle that one the best, but that's why you learn, and that's why you kind of face these different challenges. But to me, Ohio State is still going to be my pick to win it all. And I think Alabama this season, certainly to me, I I don't think they're going to be able to do it with Jalen Hurts. Last season, Jay Coker, I wasn't the biggest fan of by any means, but he was able to step up when he needed to, especially in that game against Clemson. He was outstanding. But to me, I look at this Ohio State team. I know they don't return a lot of starters, but like I've said, Urban Meyer kind of writes his own rules when he's trying to win something and winning a title. And that's why I've never thrown them out of the mix. And I look at the way they played. This is a big game for them on the road against Wisconsin. Wisconsin is good. Michigan struggled against Wisconsin. Michigan only won that game 14-7. Ohio State's going to have a really tough time in this game on the road, but only for a little while. I think at the end of the day, they open the floodgates and they win this one pretty convincingly. And it's just the nature of the Big Ten. I know it's stronger. They've got 5 teams ranked right in the top right now, but I think more than anything, Michigan, Wisconsin, you name them in the Big Ten, they just can't stand toe-to-toe with Ohio State offensively. Even Michigan, who's right behind them, everyone would agree how good they are defensively, doesn't have the offense to stand toe-to-toe with Ohio State. It's just a different breed right now. It really is. And to me, I'm still picking them, and I'm holding on to them as my national championship winners. But I think more than anything, it's going to be really fun to watch this one. Alabama, Tennessee, that one. You got Stanford, Notre Dame. You got some pretty good ones. I mean, there are 3 or 4 games that you certainly are going to want to keep your eye on this weekend, and we will continue to watch and see it all play out in front of our eyes. Until the next time, though, Jersey, Joe Archino here with the Sports Vault. You can follow me on Twitter at Joe Archino and on Instagram, Jersey_Joe_Archino. And I'll catch everybody in the next episode.